Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. It's a 2014 film that was once again written and directed by Frank Miller and Robert Rodriguez. It's indeed the... Wait a minute. Is this a sequel? Or is it a prequel? Or is it both? Well, let's talk about the plot, because the plot is... Just like the first film, we follow three main stories. The first is called Just Another Saturday Night, where we meet Mickey Rourke's character from the first movie, and he basically is so bored every weekend that he needs to find something crazy to do. And usually that involves a whole lot of chaos and violence. Next is The Long Bad Night, where... Remember Clive Owen's character, Dwight, from the first film? Well, Josh Brolin is playing him now, and his character, in the first movie, he had to get plastic surgery because he committed a murder. He was wanted for murder. This film basically shows that story and everything that went into that. And the third story is called Nancy's Last Dance, where we follow Jessica Alba's character. And she is so screwed up, so messed up, so driven downhill after what happened to Bruce Willis in the first film, that she won't stop until she gets revenge. Now, what I thought of Sin City, A Dame to Kill For was... I liked the movie. I did. Is it better than the first film? No. Of course not. But I do think there's a lot more good in here than anything else. Let's talk about the cast, because just like the first film, this has a big, crazy ensemble cast of great stars and actors. Some familiar faces, but a lot of new faces as well. Jessica Alba, Rosario Dawson, Jamie King, Powers Booth, Mickey Rourke, Bruce Willis, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Josh Brolin, Jamie Chung, Christopher Lloyd, Juno Temple, Ray Liotta, Christopher Maloney, Lady Gaga, and Jeremy Piven. Yeah, all of these people are in this movie and more. And I loved seeing people who showed up, and it was like a who's who. Especially if some of these names don't impress you or you roll your eyes at it, they're all used well and perfectly in some other cases. I was a little confused on the use of Mickey Rourke's character in this movie because, alright, you can say that the first part with him is before anything that happens in the first Sin City film, but then you see moments where he's working and he's involved with the other stories. Is there even a cohesive timeline to the Sin City universe? Now, The Long Bad Night, that's what most of this movie is, where Josh Brolin, he's madly in love with Eva Green's character, and could you blame him? She's smoking hot, and boy does she not spend half of this film butt naked, walking around, using her looks and her charm and her seduction to use men. She's evil. There's no doubt about it. But she knows she's evil. She knows what she's doing, and that's what makes her an interesting character. And to see how many guys just fell to their knees to worship her, including Josh Brolin. The character Man Newt, who was played by Michael Clark Duncan in the first film, was replaced by Dennis Haysbert, and at first I was sort of missing Michael Clark Duncan, of course, but I like what Dennis Haysbert was able to do in this role. He was able to bring that big, larger-than-life presence and just the character who could almost not be stopped. I should also mention the side story with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, where he is basically out to prove a point against Senator Rourke, the big bad of this whole universe. He wants to prove a point to him by beating him in cards and taking his money. And at first, it starts off as almost a fun, comedic sort of story, but man, does it take a dark and drastic turn. The last story, Nancy's Last Dance, I actually really enjoyed that, not just because it was continuing from my favorite story from the first film, but seeing Jessica Alba, I mean, maybe this is like her best acting performance. I mean, it's not a whole lot, but what she's able to do, being this tortured, messed up, alcoholic girl who was so screwed up from Bruce Willis killing himself in the first movie, that I love the dark turn that she took. I love how she eventually is able to be strong and be a badass. And for most of the film, though, before you get to her story, you just see her in the strip club in the background, dancing and being as hot as she can, because she still, after all these years, is one of the hottest actresses ever. But what about the way the movie looked? Obviously, it continues the style and that visualization that the first Sin City brought, and it looked great, it looked cool. But after the film, I couldn't help but overhear people in the screening talk about how it was good, but it's not as good as the first film. And even though I agreed with that, I think a lot of that stems from the fact that, as far as the effects go, that people have seen it before, been there, done that, and you had to really do something more with it to, I guess, impress people. And there's probably not a whole lot more done with the effects, it's just more of the same. But I don't complain about that because, again, I love the style, I love the noir look to it, and also the action in this movie. In some ways, it felt like there was more action in this one compared to the first. And even though it's in black and white, it is violent and bloody and brutal. And I really enjoyed that because, damn, if it hasn't been quite a while where I've seen sort of a badass rated R bloody action film. My rating for this film, I'm definitely going to give it a matinee, which I didn't realize that some people don't know what matinee means. Matinee means that I recommend you guys go to the theater and check this movie out, but it's at an early time, so the tickets aren't as crazy price as they usually are. So if you can get there early enough to check this film out, I definitely recommend it. The screening was in 3D, and I do admit the 3D was pretty good, but you probably don't really need to see it in 3D. So guys, let me know in the comments below if you plan on seeing Sin City: A Dame to Kill For. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Later!